May was all about elections. South Africa faced some unknowns as polls suggested early on that the ruling party may lose their dominance in this year's elections. However, as the IEC started counting votes, it soon became apparent that many did not expect the uMkhonto weSizwe party to achieve the results they did. Now, looking at the markets for the month of May, it was positive across the board. Locally, we saw property, equity and bonds return positive numbers. However, when zooming in on the underlying sectors of the equity market, it was quite surprising to see financials marginally down 0.06% for the month of May. In other local news, the SARB, as expected, kept rates unchanged. The US saw retail sales remain unexpectedly flat and inflation advanced less than expected. This does seem to bode well for interest rate cuts later this year, as well as the long-anticipated soft landing of the world's biggest economy. But let's remind ourselves of what has happened over the last 12 months. The official inflation number is lower than 1 year ago at 5.2%. The rand has appreciated against the US dollar. The repo rate has remained unchanged, with the expectation that we could see the first rate cuts by year end, and the JSE closed higher on 76,704 index points. May was really a good month locally, and we saw bonds, the all share and local listed property up for the month of May, as we mentioned. The strong US market ensured the MSCI ACWI returned 4% in 1 month. Now, many are wondering where to from here for bonds and local fixed interest. Two of the portfolio managers we are closely monitoring and also hold within our models are well positioned for the interest rate environment and inflationary pressures that we may still see. For both these managers, government bonds are still attractive from a valuation perspective. Now, our timeline revisits some of the interesting events that shaped our world and our markets over the last 12 months. And who recalls that last year, August, we saw the talks increasing of a US soft landing. And still, economists are debating whether the US could see any landing at all. Now, whether you are a financial advisor watching this or an end investor, or actually whatever your occupation, be sure to up your security and ensure you are more resilient. We shared some tips in our webinar and we'll focus again on some of these in this month's Market Smarts. For instance, ensure you set up two-factor authentication on all your accounts. Passwords are not enough. If you do use passwords, ensure your browser does not store any of them. Never click on links in emails if you are not 100% sure it comes from a trusted source. Ensure you use a VPN, especially if you are in public spaces, and do not trust open Wi-Fi's. Of course, there are many more tips to give, but be sure that you are fully aware of your cyber surroundings and what it is that you do or provide online. Now, moving on to our interesting numbers section, as always in our Market Smarts, this month we look at understanding the South African inflation environment. Now, you would have seen perhaps that the annual inflation came in at 5.2% in April. However, when looking at inflation on a month-to-month basis, inflation still increased. We, however, consider both numbers in our analysis and also consider the rates of acceleration when considering macroeconomic indicators. Contributing to this annual number was housing and utilities, food and non-alcoholic beverages, and transport. Now, we often talk interchangeably about core inflation versus headline inflation. Now, while core inflation strips out food and the energy sector, headline inflation includes this and commodity prices. Now, central banks use core inflation as an indicator into inflationary pressure. This month, we briefly look at the fourth pillar of outcomes-based investing, preserving capital. We specifically look at the guarded growth model portfolio and see how well the model manages to preserve the capital against inflation over its respective rolling investment period. Now also have a look again, as always, at the monthly numbers in our number snapshot, highlighting the returns of, for instance, money markets, bond yields, and then obviously the stellar performance across the board of the Amity model portfolios and Amity CIS solutions. Now in the description of this YouTube video, you will find the link to the downloadable PDF of this month's Market Smarts.